All right, with this setup, I'm going to go and set it up as if I was doing a actual full sheet. And there's a lot of ways that you could do this, but I mean, essentially the goal is to create a simple imposition for your output. And you could actually do this kind of through other softwares too. I could use InDesign to place these and make copies if I wanted to. Right now, I'll just do it in Illustrator. So I'll make a new document. And what I would want to find is, a size that's going to correspond with the paper that I'm working with. So if I have some 13 by 19, as I have in this example here, I could use this or I could make a custom one. And I'm actually just going to leave my document color mode in RGB. I'll let the printer handle conversions on it. I'm going to create that. And I've got a 13 by 19 document set up. This is great. This is ready to go. So what I'll do is select all, and I'm just going to copy this and paste it over to my sheet. Oops, and I only got one layer. Let me make sure I can get it all here. Oh, it's because I locked my background. I'll select everything, copy this, paste this over to my new document. And what I'm going to do is just step some copies out. So for the purposes of the Postpress class, I don't need a lot of advanced functions, but basically I do want to align these and try to get an efficient amount out of this for printing. And you will have to keep in mind some printers, may not print all the way to the edge, so you have to align your content properly. So there I've kind of 3 lined up, and I can make more copies of this. In fact, that's what I'll do is I'm just going to copy these off and stagger these to get the most efficient cut out of them. So there I'm easily able to get 12 up out. Now the problem is I need this artwork to also be separated from the die lines, because right now if I go in on these have all the die lines kind of showing physically on all of them. So I do have to play with layer structure a little bit. So what I'm going to do is go in and look through, and I have kind of groups on all of this. So if you look into this panel here, in fact, let me just make the icons a little bit bigger for you. Awesome. We have copies of all the pumpkins, and we have copies of all the paths here as well. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did in my other one. I'm going to have kind of a print layer, and then I'm going to have a die cut layer. And I'm going to take and select, so I'm just using Command to grab every other copy of this. And I would grab all of the die layers that I want to work with, and I'm going to take them up into the die cut layer. Here we go. Now these two are separated, so I essentially have all of the die cut paths on one separate layer and all of the print paths underneath, and they should be perfectly aligned so that I have a reference point to actually go and use for eventually for cutting. So basically at this point, what I could do is I could send this to print from the lab. I could print this out on 13 by 19. And then what I'd be able to do is take this die line layer and save a second version of this file out with just the die line so that I could actually cut the die line. Now, depending what you're doing, you might want to make a couple of versions with this. So I'll save this file so you can have it, but you may actually want to have a second version that gives you a reference so you can kind of view things as you're working with them. So maybe I would take this die cut layer and duplicate that layer. Oops. Let's see. There we go. All right, so there I have a whole copy of this layer. And if you wanted to print one with kind of a ref for getting the cut right, What you could do is actually put a layer and call it like cut guide. In fact, I do this on mine. So what I could do with just this layer is I'll take all of these, and instead of using the red 255 hairline for cutting, I'll just make it black, and I'll make the stroke, a little bit bigger, maybe like a 2-point stroke. Now what I could do is I could essentially print this with my black layer, so I have a reference so I can see where the cut needs to be for output. Maybe print a couple copies of this just to test on. And then I could print all of my copies that I've actually been keeping with that layer off. So the idea is eventually we will go to the die cut machine, and we will send that machine just these red layers, because these red layers tell the laser to cut. So that's what you'll see in my other videos with my custom demo.